Thesis the end. Get it? Because it sounds a little bit like this is the end. Anyway, thesis the end, sort of. But what do I mean by that? Let's find out. So if you're a subscriber to this channel, you know me as DystopiaJunkie, your third favourite baldy, beardy GCSE English YouTuber who makes videos on things like An Inspector Calls or A Christmas Carol or Shakespeare's plays in order to help you with your studies. However, what you might not know or may have forgotten is that ever since starting this YouTube channel, I've also been working on a PhD in English Literature at the University of Birmingham. I even started to vlog the PhD journey, but nobody really watched those videos. Look, I get it. Doing an English Literature PhD doesn't look particularly exciting because all the magic happens either in my head or on the page or on the screen. As such, I decided to stop vlogging the PhD journey. But of course, I carried on with my PhD, and on the 30th of January 2024, I submitted my final examination-ready, I hope, version of my PhD thesis, this huge book-length culmination of all of the research that I have been doing. I called it On Endotextuality, Literary Dystopias, Texts Within Texts, and Post-Truth. Overall, this document is a whopping 319 pages long. If I count only the main body of the thesis, so like the main argument of the thesis, which is what the University of Birmingham does for examination purposes, this is 79,962 words long. If I count every single word in this document, from the title page, my footnotes, the appendices, the main body of the thesis itself, and so on, it is a massive 110,475 words in total. Now, I'm not going to stand here and read out my entire thesis now, nor am I going to stand here and read out its abstract, its 1.5 page long summary. But in short, throughout this thesis, I argue that literary dystopias, so books and texts like 1984 by George Orwell, or The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, or the Hunger Games trilogy by Suzanne Collins, I argue that those texts are about truth and the problem of dismissing and devaluing truth, no matter when they were written or where in the world they were written. Something which I show is super relevant in the post-truth era we find ourselves living in. I couch this argument in the analysis of the endotexts of dystopian literature, a concept I made to group together the extra fictional texts found in novels. So things like fictional introductions, or fictional letters, or fictional footnotes, or scripts, or epigraphs, or appendices. I spent a whole lot of time conceptualizing endotexts in this thesis, and in doing so I made up a theory called endotextuality that explains how they work, and I took great care to discuss the different types or endotextures of endotexts. Now, I won't go on about the content of my thesis too much more, but I do want to mention one additional aspect of it that really excites me. I write about 22 different literary dystopias spanning a 112-year period, whose authors come from 11 different countries across North America, Europe, Asia, and Africa. In doing so, I talk about some really famous novels, I talk about some really old ones that maybe we've forgotten about, and I also write about some new ones that have only come out in the last decade or so. That means I've made some brand new connections and comparisons that have never been done before, and that means that I've done loads of really unique analysis in this document. This thesis is the product of a lot of work, a lot of really difficult, brain-scrambling work undertaken at times in some quite difficult circumstances. As such, I thank a lot of people in the thesis acknowledgements, and although I'm not going to read out all 3 pages of that now, I thought I'd share one bit with you, the viewer. And I'm grateful to the hundreds of thousands of young people who have engaged with the DystopiaJunkie GCSE English Literature revision content I have published on YouTube. Especially those who did not forget to like, comment and subscribe. Your support means more to me than you will ever understand. So what now? Well, I can't call myself Dr. Liam just yet. First, I need to go through the final boss of the PhD, the Viva. In the UK, the Viva is a spoken exam, or rather a chat with some academics who have read the entire thing, presumably more than once, and wants to push, stretch, challenge, assess and celebrate your work and prove that you know your stuff and deserve to be called doctor. Typically, a PhD student gets 2 examiners for their PhD Viva, one from within their university and one from another university, both of whom would share a broad or specific specialism with the student. Because I'm special though, I will be having 3 examiners for my Viva. Now, they received my thesis back in early February or thereabouts and have presumably been reading it and assessing it ever since. We are going to meet in a few weeks, chat for anywhere between 2 and 4 or more hours, and then after that they're going to tell me the outcome of both my PhD thesis and the Viva itself too. There will be a few different possible outcomes. I might pass with no corrections, so they'll say, well done Liam, this is an excellent piece of work, it is more than worthy of being recognised as doctoral standard, you are a world expert, well done, you are Dr. Liam. There are minor corrections where they might say, well done Liam, this is a really excellent piece of work and it is doctoral standard, it's there, however there's a few tiny little bits here and there that we want you to sort out before we can fully accept this and pass you. Now that might mean a few typos here or there, some issues with formatting or my referencing. It might mean I need to rephrase a few things or otherwise just do some little tweaks here or there throughout the document. Thirdly, they might say, well done Liam, this passes but with major corrections. This is still very much a doctoral standard piece of work and you do very much almost get to call yourself Dr. Liam, but we want you to do some more substantial work with it just to get it over the finish line. That might mean one chapter needs rewriting in full. It might mean adding in a couple of extra texts. It might mean adding in an additional theoretical framework or something else that will just require me a bit more time and a bit more effort to get it over that finish line rather than just doing a few tweaks here or there. There are other results too that would require quite a bit more work or might mean failing the PhD entirely, but quite frankly I don't want to think or talk about those right now. So then, I've got this Viva coming up. I need to prepare. I not only need to know my thesis inside out, but I need to have a pretty firm grip of all of the work and research and thinking that has gone into making this document possible. That way, I'll be able to answer any question my examiners might throw my way, show that I have a mastery of a handful of different scholarly fields, and ultimately prove that I deserve to be called Dr. Liam Knight, and that I deserve to be recognised as a world-leading expert of dystopian fiction. How I go about preparing for that, I'm not quite sure. But I'm going to figure it out, get some help from some wonderful people, attempt to vlog the Viva preparation journey, and hopefully, publish that after I have passed and can finally call myself Dr. Liam Knight. Until then, wish me luck. Cheers.